The Skeptic's Challenge, the conference room on Station Meridian hung suspended above a gas giant's swirling storms. But Captain Jaron Hollick barely noticed the view. His attention fixed on the woman standing before the holographic display. Her dark hair pulled back severely as she pointed to ancient star charts with an intensity that bordered on obsession. "You're asking me to believe in ghost stories, Dr. Cross." Jaron leaned back in his chair, arms crossed over his uniform. Around the table, other commanders shifted uncomfortably. Nadia Cross's jaw tightened. 3 years ago, they'd been more than colleagues. 3 years ago, before his dismissal of her theories had driven a wedge between them that never healed. "I'm asking you to look at the evidence, Captain. These energy signatures don't lie." "Evidence of what? A fairy tale?" Jaron stood, moving to the window. "We're losing this war because we're outgunned and outnumbered, not because we lack bedtime stories." Admiral Torres, a gray-haired veteran with more scars than patience, raised a hand. "Dr. Cross, we've entertained your presentation. Unless you have concrete proof this Phantom Warship exists, we need to focus on actual defensive strategies." Nadia's fingers trembled slightly as she manipulated the hologram. "The archive fragments from the Colony Wars mention it 17 times. The dimensional mathematics alone. Show me the ship, Doctor, not math. Not myths." Jaron turned to face her, and for a moment their eyes met. He saw the hurt there, quickly masked by professional determination. Part of him wanted to apologize for being cruel, but war had taught him that hope built on legends got people killed. "The signal beacon I've been monitoring shows activity," Nadia said quietly. "Something out there is responding to the old protocols." "Or it's stellar interference," Lieutenant Marcus Webb interjected diplomatically. "Sir, we have Vryn scouts in 3 sectors. Shouldn't we—" The station's alarms shattered the tension. Red light flooded the room as Torres barked into his comm. "Report!" Multiple Vryn signatures dropping from hyperspace. "It's a full assault fleet!" Jaron's training took over, pushing aside everything but survival. "All personnel to battle stations." "Marcus, get our fighters deployed!" "Admiral, we need those orbital cannons online now." As commanders scattered, Nadia caught Jaron's arm. Up close, he could smell the vanilla scent she'd always worn, could see the flecks of amber in her brown eyes. "Please, Jaron, at least let me try to send the signal." "There's nothing out there to hear it," he said, but his voice softened. "Get to the research level. If we survive this, maybe I'll listen to more of your theories." She held his gaze a moment longer. "We had something once, you and I. You used to believe in possibilities. That was before I watched possibilities die in the vacuum." He pulled away gently. "Go! Be safe!" The station shuddered as the first Vryn weapons struck the shields. Jaron sprinted to the command deck, where holographic displays showed the nightmare unfolding. 40 Vryn destroyers, sleek and predatory, surrounded the station in a perfect formation. Behind them, 3 massive dreadnoughts moved into position like judges preparing to deliver sentence. "They're not just raiding," Marcus said, his young face pale. "They're here to end us." Jaron watched their own fleet, 12 cruisers and a handful of fighters, move to intercept. Outmatched didn't begin to describe it. "All ships, Delta formation, focus fire on their command vessel. If we take out their coordination..." A Vryn beam tore through one of their cruisers before he finished speaking. The explosion bloomed silently in the void, bright and brief as a dying star. In her laboratory 3 decks below, Nadia's hands flew across controls. The ancient signal protocols hummed to life, broadcasting on frequencies that shouldn't exist according to modern physics. Her team had evacuated, leaving her alone with her conviction and her equipment. "I know you're out there," she whispered to the darkness beyond the stars. "I know you're real. Please, if you were ever going to wake up, let it be now." The station rocked again. Power flickered. Through the observation window, she saw another human ship die, its hull peeling apart under concentrated fire. On the command deck, Jaron fought with everything he had. His tactical mind processed angles, velocities, firing solutions. But tactics meant nothing against overwhelming force. They were buying time at best, dying slowly instead of quickly. "Captain, something's wrong with their formation," Marcus said suddenly. "They're pulling back." Jaron studied the display. The Vryn were indeed retreating, but not in defeat. They were spreading out, as if making room for something. Then he saw what Nadia's sensors had detected first. A reading, massive, Impossible. Moving toward them from the outer system where nothing should exist. Sir, we're picking up a thermal signature that... The sensor officer stopped, disbelief written across his features. That can't be right. It's reading larger than a moon. Jaren felt something cold slide down his spine. He opened a channel. Dr. Cross, tell me you're seeing this. Her voice came through, breathless with vindication and wonder. I told you, Jaren. I told you the Phantom was real. Through the viewport, against the backdrop of infinite night, a shape emerged. Not a ship, not like anything humanity or the Vryn had ever built. It moved with terrible patience, its hull etched with lines of light that seemed to pulse with ancient heartbeats. The ghost warship, the legend, the Phantom, and it was awake. The first whisper. The silence on the command deck felt heavier than the station's artificial gravity. Every eye fixed on the view screen where the impossible hung in space, real and undeniable. Commander Thale of the Vryn fleet watched from his flagship's bridge, his secondary sensory organs flaring in what his species recognized as primal fear. His scaled skin rippled with involuntary color changes, an instinctive response he couldn't suppress. All vessels, maintain distance, Thale commanded, his translated voice steady despite the terror coursing through him. Analysis crews, I want full-spectrum scans. His tactical officer's membrane trembled. Commander, the vessel is not responding to any known energy signature patterns. Its mass alone should collapse under gravitational stress, yet it moves with perfect stability. Thale's ancestors had recorded something in their oldest war chronicles, a terror from humanity's hidden past. He'd dismissed those records as propaganda, designed to explain ancient defeats. Now, staring at the massive silhouette, he wondered if his people had forgotten the wrong lessons. On Station Meridian, Jaren found himself moving without conscious thought, his boots carrying him toward the research level. Marcus followed, loyalty overriding protocol. Sir, shouldn't you remain at command? Torres can handle the fleet, Jaren said, though his voice sounded distant to his own ears. I need to see what she's done. They found Nadia standing before a wall of holographic data streams, her face illuminated by cascading symbols. She didn't turn when they entered, but her shoulders straightened as if sensing his presence. The signal protocols are ancient, she said softly. Older than the colony ships. Older than the first Earth governments that reached for the stars. Someone built this ship before we even understood what we were building toward. Jaren approached slowly, close enough to see the tremor in her hands, the tears tracking down her cheeks. Nadia, you called me crazy. She finally turned, and the raw emotion in her face struck him harder than any Vryn weapon. 3 years, Jaren. 3 years I've been trying to prove this. And you made sure every commander in the fleet thought I was chasing shadows. I was wrong. The words felt inadequate, too small for the moment. I'm sorry, Marcus coughed awkwardly. I'll check the perimeter. He retreated, leaving them alone with the weight of history and regret. Nadia wiped her eyes, attempting composure. Do you know why I never gave up? Why I kept searching even when you walked away from everything we had? Tell me. Because my grandmother told me stories before she died. She was on the crew that discovered the first protocol fragment. She made me promise, made me swear I'd find the truth. Nadia's voice cracked. She said humanity would need the Phantom when hope died. When we faced extinction, she said it was our last guardian, sleeping until the darkest hour. Jaren reached out, hesitated, then gently took her hand. Her fingers were ice cold, and she gripped his with desperate strength. I shouldn't have doubted you, he said quietly. After everything we were to each other, I should have trusted. The station lurched violently. Red alert screamed as the Vryn fleet opened fire, not at the human ships, but at the massive vessel emerging from the depths. They're attacking it, Nadia gasped, pulling up tactical feeds. Jaren watched in horrified fascination as dozens of energy beams converged on the Phantom. The light show was magnificent and utterly futile. Every shot dissipated against hull plating that shouldn't exist, absorbed by shields that operated on physics humanity had never mastered. It's not even moving, Marcus reported over the comm, having returned to the command deck. Just taking their fire like it doesn't matter. Thale watched his fleet's assault with growing dread. The weapons that had destroyed human colonies, that had burned worlds and shattered orbital platforms, accomplished nothing. The ancient ship didn't evade. Didn't need to. Cease fire, he ordered. All ships, cease fire immediately. But fear had already infected his fleet. Captains continued their bombardment, panic overriding discipline. The Vryn had laughed at human legends for generations, secure in their technological superiority. Now that superiority meant nothing. The Phantom moved, not quickly, not with the desperate energy of a ship in battle. It glided forward with terrible inevitability, like a predator that had spotted prey and felt no need to rush. Panels along its hull opened, not with mechanical precision but with organic grace, as if the ship itself were living metal. Light spilled out, colors that didn't belong in any spectrum either species understood. "Nadia, get down." Jaren pulled her to the floor as the first weapon discharge lit up space. It wasn't an explosion. It was more like reality itself rewriting, a beam of impossible energy that unmade one of the Vryn dreadnoughts. Not destroyed it, unmade it. Where a massive warship had existed, suddenly there was nothing but drifting particles and fading quantum echoes. The second and third shots followed in heartbeats. 2 more Vryn destroyers simply ceased to exist. On Thal's flagship, the bridge descended into chaos. Officers shouted contradictory orders, their disciplined military bearing shattered by the impossible. Full retreat. "All vessels, emergency hyperspace jumps." But the Phantom had positioned itself perfectly. Every time a Vryn ship attempted to generate a hyperspace window, subtle energy pulses disrupted the formation. They were trapped, corralled like prey animals. Jaren and Nadia stood together in the observation room, their earlier conversation forgotten in the face of overwhelming power. His arm had somehow found its way around her shoulders, and she leaned into him as they watched the legend they'd argued about rewrite the rules of war. "What have we awakened?" Jaren whispered. Nadia's equipment suddenly flared with activity. Symbols cascaded across her screens. Not human language, not Vryn, something older. Her translation algorithms struggled, piecing together meaning from mathematics and pure concept. "It's trying to communicate," she breathed. "Jaren, it's reaching out to us. What's it saying?" She read the fragmentary translations, her voice shaking. "Protocol recognized. Defensive parameters engaged. Query, enemy identification confirmed." "It's asking permission," Jaren realized, wonder cutting through his shock. After all this time, after waking up to find the galaxy changed, it's still asking humanity if it should fight. Nadia's hands hovered over her controls. The weight of the moment pressed down. One response could determine the fate of species, of entire civilizations. She looked at Jaren, seeing in his eyes the same question she felt in her heart. The Vryn had come to destroy them, had destroyed so many already. But with this power at their command, humanity could do more than survive. They could dominate. "Tell it yes," Jaren said quietly, "but tell it to spare those who retreat." "We're not conquerors." Nadia's fingers flew across the interface, encoding their response in the ancient protocols. The Phantom received the message, and something changed in its pattern. The devastating weapons ceased firing, though its presence alone kept the Vryn fleet frozen in terror. One word appeared on Nadia's screen, translated from mathematics older than memory: acknowledged. The legend awakens. Commander Thal's flagship drifted among the wreckage of his confidence. Through the viewport, the Phantom hung like a monument to everything his people had misunderstood about humanity. His communication officer, a young Vryn named Selix, looked to him with all 4 eyes wide in naked fear. "Commander, they're hailing us." "The humans?" Thal's voice carried the rasp of exhaustion. "No, sir, the ancient vessel." Thal straightened his posture, an instinctive military response even in the face of the incomprehensible. "Open the channel." What came through wasn't sound, wasn't even traditional communication. It was pure meaning, translated directly into his consciousness through technology his species had never imagined. The voice, if it could be called that, resonated with age and patience. "You attacked those under our protection. Explain your purpose or face erasure." On Station Meridian, Nadia clutched Jaren's arm as the same message echoed through her equipment. The Phantom wasn't just communicating. It was establishing itself as arbiter, judge, and executioner if necessary. "It's more than a warship," she whispered. "It's thinking, evaluating. Jaren, I don't think it's just artificial intelligence. I think it's something else." Lieutenant Marcus burst into the laboratory, his face flushed with excitement and terror. "Captain, Admiral Torres is demanding you return to command. The Vryn are attempting to open diplomatic channels through us." Jaren didn't move from Nadia's side. "Tell the Admiral the situation is under control. Sir, with respect." "Nothing about this is under control." That's precisely why it's under control, Jaren replied, a strange calm settling over him. We're not in command here. Something greater than both our species is. The Phantom's presence seemed to expand, not physically but in awareness. Nadia's sensors showed impossible readings. The ship was somehow interfacing with every electronic system in the sector simultaneously. Scanning, learning, understanding the current state of the galaxy in microseconds. Thale finally found his voice to respond. We came to prevent human expansion from threatening the balance of power. Our ancestors recorded encounters with your kind. We feared, fear bred this war. Fear perpetuates it. We slept because those who built us believed the galaxy would mature past such fear. We see now that belief was premature. The Phantom shifted position, and every ship in the sector, human and Vrin alike, felt the gravitational wake of its movement. It wasn't aggressive, but the reminder of its sheer mass sent a clear message. Nadia, can you establish a direct link? Jaren asked. If it's truly sentient, maybe we can negotiate. I can try. She reconfigured her interface, her fingers dancing across holographic controls with practiced precision. But Jaren, if this thing decides humanity isn't worth protecting, we have no defense. Then we trust. He placed his hand over hers on the console. Trust is what we lost. Maybe it's what we need to find again. The connection established with a pulse of light that seemed to pass through both of them. Suddenly, Nadia gasped, her eyes unfocusing as information flooded her consciousness. Jaren caught her as she swayed. Nadia, what's happening? I'm seeing... Her voice came distant, dreamlike. It's memories. God, Jaren, it's so old. It remembers Earth before the colony ships. It remembers the war that almost destroyed us. The people who built it weren't trying to create a weapon. They were trying to create a guardian that would outlast human weakness. Images flickered through her mind. Ancient humans, desperate and brilliant, pouring their hopes and fears into metal and code. They'd known humanity would reach the stars, known they'd face threats beyond imagination. So they'd created something that would endure, that would wait through centuries of silence for the moment it was truly needed. It's looking for someone, Nadia continued, her breathing rapid. Not just any human. Someone who can merge with it. Complete its purpose. Merge. Jaren felt ice in his veins. It's incomplete. Powerful but incomplete. It needs a human consciousness to bond with, to give it understanding of the modern era, to help it distinguish between protection and domination. Across the void, Thale received a different message. The Phantom addressed his fleet with cold precision. Your vessels will withdraw beyond the neutral boundary. You will carry a message to your leadership. The age of fearing humanity's potential has ended. The age of understanding their protection has begun. Those who come in peace will find peace. Those who come with weapons will find us. Sellex trembled. Commander, our fleet is being escorted. The vessel is using some kind of field to push us away from human space. Thale watched in numb acceptance as his armada, still mostly intact but thoroughly humiliated, was shepherded like livestock toward the border. Not destroyed, that would have been simpler. Instead, they were being sent home to spread the story, to become living proof that humanity's legend was real. Prepare a full report for the High Council, Thale ordered wearily. Include everything. They called us fools for worrying about human myths. Now those myths will dictate the future of our people. On the station, Nadia collapsed fully into Jaren's arms. Her eyes opened, focusing on his face with new intensity. It wants me, she said simply. It's been scanning everyone, reading our thoughts, our intentions. It chose me. Chose you for what? To complete the bond, to become part of it. She touched his face gently. I'm sorry, Jaren. I know we just found our way back to each other, but this is what I've been searching for. This is the purpose my grandmother saw. Jaren pulled her closer, his heart breaking even as pride swelled in his chest. You'll lose yourself, become something else. Maybe. Or maybe I'll become what I was always meant to be. She kissed him softly, tasting of salt and regret. Promise me something. Promise you'll remember who I was before this. Promise you'll tell the galaxy that Dr. Nadia Cross believed in legends even when everyone called her crazy. You can't. I already made the choice. Jaren, the moment I activated the signal, I made it. The Phantom's presence intensified, and Nadia felt its call like a tide pulling her toward an infinite ocean. It offered her everything, knowledge spanning millennia, power to reshape battles, the ability to protect humanity from any threat, and it would cost her everything she was. She stood, Jaren's hand slipping from hers. I love you. I need you to know that. Every harsh word, every argument, underneath it all. I never stopped. Nadia, wait. But she was already moving toward the shuttle bay, toward the vessel that would carry her to transformation, toward the legend that had awakened and now called her home. The cost of power. The shuttle bay felt colder than space itself as Jaren watched Nadia prepare for departure. She moved with mechanical efficiency, checking flight systems, running diagnostics, anything to avoid looking at him directly. You don't have to do this alone, Jaren said, standing in the shuttle's doorway. Let me come with you. You know it doesn't work that way. Nadia finally met his gaze, and he saw the fear beneath her determination. The Phantom chose one consciousness, only one. Bringing you would only endanger you, Marcus approached, holding a data chip. Dr. Cross, I've compiled everything we know about neural interface technology. It's not much, but maybe. Thank you, Marcus. She took the chip gently. Tell Admiral Torres that whatever happens, the protocols I've established should remain active. If the Phantom needs to communicate with humanity's leadership, they'll know how. Jaren watched her hands shake as she secured the chip. 3 years they'd been apart, and now that they'd found each other again, she was leaving in a way that might erase her entirely. The unfairness of it burned in his throat. When you're in there, he struggled with the words, will you still be you? Will you remember us? Nadia stepped closer, close enough that he could count the unshed tears in her eyes. I don't know. The Phantom showed me glimpses of what the bond means. It's not possession, more like fusion. 2 consciousnesses becoming something new. I'll have its memories, its power, but I'll also have mine. Our first kiss behind the Academy library. The night we stayed up arguing about quantum mechanics until sunrise. The moment you walked away because you couldn't handle my obsession. I was an idiot. You were scared. She placed her palm against his chest, feeling his heartbeat. We both were. But I'm not scared anymore, Jaren. I'm terrified, but I'm not scared. Does that make sense? He covered her hand with his. No, but I understand anyway. She kissed him then, long and desperate, trying to pour 3 years of regret and all their stolen tomorrows into one moment. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. Come back to me, Jaren whispered against her forehead. I don't care what form you take or what changes. Just come back. I'll try. She pulled away, and the distance between them suddenly felt infinite. Tell me about your plan. The Vryn won't stay scared forever. High Arbiter Veln isn't the type to accept defeat gracefully. Jaren forced himself into tactical mode, the professional mask he wore when emotions threatened to overwhelm. Torres is coordinating with our allied colonies. We're establishing a defensive perimeter using the Phantom's presence as a deterrent. But you're right. The Vryn leadership will see this as a temporary setback. As if summoned by their words, the station's communication systems crackled to life. A new voice, harsh and filled with barely controlled rage, echoed through the bay. Human vessels, this is High Arbiter Veln of the Vryn Collective. We demand parley. Marcus's face appeared on a nearby screen. Captain, they're broadcasting across all channels. Every ship in the sector is hearing this. Jaren activated his wrist comm. Patch me through. Veln's image materialized. A Vryn of impressive size, his scales bearing the intricate patterns of high rank. His 4 eyes blazed with humiliation and fury. You dare use ancient weapons against us? You dare threaten the balance of the galaxy? We didn't threaten anyone, Jaren replied calmly. You brought war to our doorstep. The Phantom merely defended those under its protection. That abomination is not natural. It violates every principle of fair warfare. Like burning colonies? Like destroying civilian transports? Jaren's voice hardened. You came to exterminate us, Arbiter. The Phantom simply ensured you failed. Veln's scales rippled with color shifts, rage, fear, calculation. Our full armada numbers in the thousands. What you faced was merely our forward elements. When we return with our complete might, your legend will be nothing but dust. Nadia touched Jaren's arm gently. Let me. She stepped into the transmission's range, and Veln's eyes widened slightly. The Vryn had excellent intelligence networks. He clearly recognized the woman who'd awakened humanity's greatest weapon. High Arbiter, Nadia said, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. I'm about to bond with the Phantom. In a few hours, I'll be part of it, and it will be part of me. When your armada comes, and I know you'll bring it, you won't be facing just a ship. You'll be facing a human consciousness with access to technology your species can't comprehend. Ask yourself, is your pride worth the extinction of your fleet? Veln's membrane fluttered, a Vryn gesture of deep disturbance. You would sacrifice your humanity for a weapon? No, I'm sacrificing my humanity for my people. There's a difference. The transmission cut abruptly, but the message had been delivered. Nadia turned to find Jaren watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Pride mixed with grief. Love tangled with loss. That was either very brave or very foolish, Marcus offered diplomatically. Both, probably. Nadia moved toward the shuttle's pilot seat. Jaren, when Veln comes, and he will, you need to keep the fleet clear. The Phantom and I will handle the Vryn armada, but I can't protect humanity and fight at full capacity simultaneously. You're already thinking like it, Jaren realized. Already planning battles on a scale we can't imagine. The bond is already beginning. I can feel it at the edges of my mind, waiting. She initiated the shuttle's launch sequence. 72 hours, Jaren. That's my estimate for when Veln will arrive with everything he has. Get everyone to safety. Evacuate the non-essential stations. This sector is about to become a graveyard. The shuttle bay doors opened, revealing the Phantom in the distance, a silhouette against the stars. Patient and eternal, Nadia, Jaren called out as the shuttle began to lift. When this is over, when we've survived whatever's coming, dinner. A real date, not grabbed rations between shifts. Maybe even dancing, she smiled, and for a moment she was just Nadia again, not the woman walking toward transformation. I'd like that. Assuming I remember how to dance after merging with a millennia-old warship, we'll figure it out together. The shuttle accelerated away, carrying her toward her destiny. Jaren stood in the bay long after she disappeared, Marcus waiting respectfully nearby. Sir, Torres wants you in the command center. We need to start evacuation protocols. In a moment. Jaren's voice was rough. Let me have just a moment more. He watched the distant Phantom, imagining Nadia approaching it, imagining the moment when her consciousness would blend with something ancient and powerful. Would she dream his dreams? Would any part of their love survive the transformation? The stars gave no answer, cold and distant as they'd always been. But somewhere in that vastness, a legend was about to become complete. And the galaxy would learn what humanity could become when hope and power merged into one. When Legends Rise, Nadia's shuttle docked with the Phantom through an airlock that seemed to grow organically from the ancient hull. The moment she stepped inside, her breath caught. The interior wasn't metal or machinery. It was something between alive but not biological, conscious but not limited by flesh. Corridors stretched before her, lit by that same impossible light she'd seen from outside. Symbols drifted along the walls like living text, rearranging themselves as she approached, trying to find a language she could understand. Welcome, Dr. Nadia Cross. We have been waiting. The voice resonated from everywhere and nowhere, through air and through her bones. She steadied herself against a wall that felt warm under her palm, almost like skin. I'm here. I'm ready, are you? This bond cannot be undone. What you are will cease to exist. What we become will be new. Nadia thought of Jaren standing in that shuttle bay, of the way he'd looked at her like she was both brave and foolish, of the grandmother who'd made her promise to find the truth, of humanity, fragile and stubborn, reaching for stars they barely understood. Show me what I need to do. The ship guided her deeper, through passages that seemed to reshape themselves around her movement. She passed chambers filled with technology that shouldn't exist, engines that bent space-time, weapons that unmade matter, shields that operated on principles humanity had never theorized. At the ship's heart, she found the integration chamber, a sphere of liquid light suspended in darkness, pulsing with patient expectation. Enter when ready. The pain will be brief. The change will be eternal. Nadia removed her uniform jacket, folding it carefully, a final human gesture before she became something else. She thought of sending a message to Jaren, but what could she say? How do you say goodbye to yourself? She stepped into the light. 71 hours later, Jaren stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute, watching long-range sensors detect the nightmare approaching. High Arbiter Veln had kept his promise. The Vryn armada emerged from hyperspace in a formation that blotted out stars, 3,000 warships, representing the combined might of a dozen allied alien races. Admiral Torres looked at him with grim respect. We've evacuated everyone we can. Station Meridian is empty except for essential defense platforms. Captain, permission to withdraw the fleet to fallback positions? Granted. Get them clear. Jaren's eyes remained fixed on the holographic display. This fight isn't ours. You're certain it'll respond? I'm certain of nothing anymore, Admiral. But I trust her. Even transformed, even merged with that ship, I trust the woman I love. Marcus approached quietly. Sir, the Vryn are broadcasting. Veln wants to speak. Put him through. The High Arbiter's image appeared, larger and more imposing than before. Behind him, Jaren could see dozens of Vryn officers, their expressions hard with determination. Captain Hollick, you have one final chance to surrender. Return your colonies to neutral space, submit to collective oversight, and we will allow your species to survive as a client race. And if we refuse, then we will demonstrate why the galaxy fears the Vryn Collective. Your legend may have power, but numbers tell their own story. One ship, however mighty, cannot stand against 3,000. Jaren smiled, and there was something in that smile that made Veln's scales ripple with uncertainty. You're right about numbers, Arbiter, but you're wrong about legends. Because legends aren't just stories. They're truth we haven't learned to understand yet. Movement registered on sensors. The Phantom, silent since Nadia had entered it 3 days ago, suddenly flared with brilliant light. It moved away from Station Meridian with grace that defied its massive size, positioning itself between the human fleet and the Vryn Armada. Then it spoke, and the voice was Nadia's, but somehow more, layered with harmonics of ancient AI and human determination. High Arbiter Veln, you were warned. You chose to ignore that warning. Now face the consequence of your pride. Nadia, Jaren whispered, though he knew she couldn't hear him from this distance. The Vryn fleet opened fire simultaneously, 3,000 ships unleashing enough destructive power to sterilize a dozen planets. Space itself seemed to ignite as energy weapons converged on the Phantom. What happened next would be recorded in historical archives of every species in the galaxy. The Phantom didn't evade. It expanded, not physically, but dimensionally. Shields bloomed into existence in layers, each one operating on different principles of physics. The Vryn barrage struck those shields and simply dissipated, absorbed, converted into additional power that made the Phantom glow even brighter. Our turn. The ancient warship began its response, and Jaren understood why humanity's ancestors had hidden it away. This wasn't just a weapon. It was a force of nature given purpose. From the Phantom's hull, technology activated that made modern warfare look primitive. Reality itself seemed to bend around targeting beams that didn't travel through space. They simply made the distance between weapon and target cease to exist. Vryn ships didn't explode. They inverted, folded, compressed into singularities that winked out like extinguished candles.